The moment the lights dimmed and the camera panned across the roaring America's Got Talent crowd, no one expected what was about to happen next. Fingers hovered over the skip button, judges adjusted in their chairs, and millions watching at home thought they knew the routine. But then a small figure walked onto the stage, barefoot, shoulders slightly hunched, eyes carrying a mix of fear and hope, and something in the air changed instantly. Before you decide this is just another audition, stay with this story till the end, because what this Filipino kid did next didn't just shock America, it awakened a nation's pride and brought even Simon Cowell to tears. And if stories that touch the heart and remind you of the power of dreams matter to you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because moments like this deserve to be shared. His name was Miguel Santos, a 12-year-old boy from a small coastal town in the Philippines where houses leaned close together and dreams often felt bigger than reality. Miguel grew up listening to the sound of waves crashing against the shore and his father humming old patriotic songs while mending fishing nets. His mother worked long hours selling vegetables in the local market, and money was always tight. Electricity would flicker, meals were simple, and luxuries were non-existent, but one thing filled their tiny home with warmth: music. Miguel didn't own fancy instruments or take formal lessons. His voice was shaped by church choirs, school flag ceremonies, and quiet nights where he sang to drown out the worry he heard in his parents' whispers. From a young age, Miguel felt something different when he sang Lupang Hinirang, the Philippine national anthem. It wasn't just a song to him. It reminded him of his grandfather, a former soldier who used to tell stories of sacrifice, resilience, and love for the motherland. Miguel remembered how his grandfather would stand tall, hand over heart, eyes misty, every time the anthem played. This song, his grandfather once said, carries the soul of our people. When his grandfather passed away, Miguel sang Lupang Hinirang at his funeral, his voice trembling but sincere. People cried, not because it was perfect, but because it was honest. The idea of auditioning for America's Got Talent seemed impossible. It started as a joke between classmates, then a whisper between neighbors, and finally a bold dream his parents didn't know how to support but refused to crush. They sold what little they could, borrowed money, and trusted that somehow, the universe would meet their faith halfway. Miguel had never been on a plane before. He had never left his country. And now, here he was, standing on one of the biggest stages in the world, staring at judges whose names he only knew from borrowed DVDs and YouTube clips watched on slow internet. Simon Cowell glanced down at the cue card and raised an eyebrow. "So, Miguel," he said gently, "what are you going to sing for us today?" The crowd leaned in, expecting a pop song, maybe a ballad. Miguel swallowed hard, his hands shaking as he gripped the microphone. "I will sing Lupang Hinirang," he said softly. There was a pause. Confusion rippled through the audience. Some smiled politely. Others looked unsure. A national anthem, in a foreign language, on an American talent show? Even Simon seemed skeptical. "That's very brave," he replied, unsure of what to expect. The first note floated out, quiet but steady. Miguel closed his eyes, and in that moment, the massive stage disappeared. He was back home, standing under the Philippine sun, hearing his grandfather's voice, feeling the weight of history and hope in every word. His voice grew stronger, richer, carrying emotion far beyond his years. The melody rose, filled with longing, pride, and pain, and even those who didn't understand the language felt something tighten in their chests. The audience fell silent. Phones stopped recording. Judges stopped judging. As Miguel reached the chorus, his voice cracked, not from weakness, but from overwhelming emotion. He didn't hide it. He leaned into it. Tears streamed down his face as he sang of a beloved land, of freedom, of sacrifice. The camera cut to Simon Cowell, known for his tough critiques and sharper words, blinking rapidly, his jaw clenched. Heidi Klum pressed her hand to her heart. Sofia Vergara whispered, "Wow," under her breath. This wasn't just a performance, it was a message carried across oceans. When the final note faded, there was a split second of silence, the kind that feels sacred. Then the theater erupted. The crowd stood, clapping, cheering, some openly crying. Miguel stood frozen, unsure if he had done something wrong. He bowed awkwardly, wiping his face, overwhelmed by the sound and lights. Simon leaned forward, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "I didn't understand a word you sang," he said, pausing as the audience laughed gently, "but I understood everything you meant." His eyes glistened. That was one of the most sincere, heartfelt performances we've ever had on this stage. Simon admitted that he rarely gets emotional, but Miguel's performance reminded him why music matters, not because of perfection, but because of truth. "You brought your country's heart here tonight," he said. "And that takes courage." The judges unanimously voted yes, but by then, it almost didn't matter. Miguel had already won something far greater than a spot in the competition. Back in the Philippines, the audition went viral within hours. Families gathered around phones and TVs, tears streaming as they watched one of their own sing Lupang Hinirang on an international stage. Streets echoed with pride. Social media flooded with messages thanking Miguel for representing the country with dignity and heart. For many Filipinos abroad, his voice felt like home, reaching out to them across the world. Miguel returned to his hotel room that night and called his parents. His mother cried so hard she could barely speak. His father simply said, "Your Lolo would be proud." In that moment, Miguel understood that his dream was never just about winning a show. It was about honoring where he came from, showing that even a small voice from a small place can echo around the world. As the competition continued, Miguel faced challenges, language barriers, pressure, homesickness, but he carried himself with humility and strength. No matter how far he went, that first audition remained unforgettable. It became a reminder that talent is powerful, but authenticity is unstoppable. By the end of his journey, Miguel stood not just as a contestant, but as a symbol of pride, resilience, and hope. His story inspired countless young dreamers to believe that their background is not a limitation, but a strength. And as viewers, we're reminded that sometimes, the performances that move us the most aren't the loudest or flashiest, they're the ones that come straight from the heart. If this story touched you, if it made you feel something deep inside, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because sharing stories like Miguel's keeps hope alive, reminds us of our roots, and proves that music has the power to unite the world. Before the judges even knew his name, before a single note was sung, millions were already about to be changed forever. The camera zoomed in on a small boy standing alone under blinding lights, and somewhere between curiosity and doubt, America almost looked away. But don't blink, because what happens next is the moment Simon Cowell never expected, the moment Philippine pride shook an entire nation. Stay till the end of this story, and if it moves you even a little, make sure you like the video and subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be remembered. The boy's name was Joshua Reyes, just 11 years old, from a quiet barangay in the Philippines where roads were narrow, houses were simple, and dreams often had to fight to survive. Joshua didn't grow up with luxury. He grew up with responsibility. Every morning before school, he helped his mother prepare rice and pack small food orders she sold to neighbors. His father worked overseas as a construction laborer, sending money when he could, missing birthdays, missing holidays, missing years. Music became Joshua's comfort, something that made the distance feel smaller. Every Monday at school, during the flag ceremony, Joshua stood a little straighter than the others when the national anthem played. While some students whispered or fidgeted, Joshua sang with his whole chest. Lupang Hinirang wasn't just routine to him. It was memory. It was his grandmother teaching him the words slowly, correcting his pronunciation, telling him stories about sacrifice, freedom, and love for the land. "When you sing this," she told him, "you carry all of us with you." When his grandmother passed away, Joshua stopped singing for a while. The house felt quieter. The anthem felt heavier. But one evening, during a brownout, he sang it softly in the dark, and his mother cried without saying a word. That night, Joshua realized something powerful: his voice didn't belong only to him. The America's Got Talent audition wasn't planned. A teacher recorded Joshua singing during a school event and posted it online. The video traveled faster than anyone expected. Weeks later, an email arrived that felt unreal. His mother read it 3 times, hands shaking. They couldn't afford the trip, but the community came together. Coins, prayers, borrowed money, and belief carried Joshua across the ocean for the first time in his life. Now he stood on the AGT stage, wearing a simple white shirt and black pants, shoes slightly worn. The crowd smiled politely. The judges waited. Simon Cowell looked at him with his usual unreadable expression. "Joshua," Simon asked, "what will you be singing today?" Joshua took a breath so deep his shoulders rose. "I will sing the Philippine national anthem," he said. "Amor Mu."